Good morning. This is, I know I'm starting a little bit early today, but I've got things that I've got bug people coming to the house this morning and do their monthly spraying. And I've got some other things I need to do immediately after that. So I'm on a little bit of a time crunch today. This is going to be a fun one. It is going to be the Angry Shroom for 90% of it, because there were some hearings yesterday on illegal immigration. And the head of the immigration system, his name is Alejandro Mayorkas, I believe is how he pronounces his last name. I could be wrong. Born in Havana. He came here after the Cuban Revolution, and then later lived in Florida, then later went to California. He graduated from UC Berkeley with in history with honors, earning his JD from Loyola Marymount University. Then after law school, he went to work as an assistant United States attorney, and was appointed as a United States attorney for the Central District of California by Bill Clinton, and then stayed there under Bush, where he saw prosecutions of high-profile criminal cases. Looking at the Wikipedia awning. Okay. Mayorkas was a member of the transition team for Obama. And then he went to work as the director of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS. And he led the United States citizenship through management efficiencies and fiscal responsibility and safeguarded. Yes. He implemented DACA in 60 days. All right. So let's just go there. He did lead the government efforts to rescue orphan children following the earthquake in Haiti in 2010. And that this one here sort of confuses me. Led the advancement of a crime victims unit that for the first time resulted in the ability of the agency to administer the statutory maximum number of visas to victims of crimes. Now the U visa is a United States non-immigrant visa, which is set aside for victims of crimes who suffered substantial mental or physical abuse while in the U.S. and are willing to assist law enforcement or government officials in the prosecution of criminal activity. That seems to me that would not be something that you'd want to. I'm a little, yes, we want to prosecute people who commit crimes, but to reward the victims by saying, well, since you were unfortunate enough to be the victim of a crime, we're going to give you oh, man, you guys jumped in here quick today. Good morning, Becca. Oh, I'm definitely going to try to get it all out. The wife has got, we just discussed what we're going to do this weekend, and she has got me, I see pain pills in my future. I definitely see pain pills in my future. Morning, Neil. How you doing today? Trafficking. Okay. I was just reading about, this is just stuff I'm looking at, about this guy off of Wiki. So, it's, according to the Wiki, the U visa, non-immigrant visa for victims of crimes of who suffer substantial mental or physical abuse in the U.S. All right, I can see us having, hey, we want to prosecute these criminals. We want to prosecute people who, do these things to other people. But I don't think we need to be rewarding the victims by giving them a permanent visa or giving them a visa, especially if they're here illegally to start with. All right. That does not make, it is, that's just the way I look at it. Okay. And then of course, Biden nominated him to be the Secretary of Homeland Security. And let's see, the FOP and former Secretaries Tom Ridge and Michael Chertoff, Napolitano and Jay Johnson all said Biden could not have found a more qualified person. He was confirmed by 56 to 43 vote. The only Democrat or the only Republicans who voted for him are the usual suspects. Let's see here if I can find it again. Here we go. Republican senators Shelley Moore, Rob Portman from Ohio. Let's see, Shelley Moore is from West Virginia. Susan Collins, Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, and Dan Sullivan from Alaska all voted with the Democrats to confirm him. So he was going to get confirmed either way. It would just been a 51. It had been a 50-49 vote. And so he would have been sworn in regardless. So, but that's the way that goes. Oh, well, let's see. What was my sleep last night, Neil? Let's see. Got home about 11:30, took a pain pill, laid down, and the canine unit of the family got me up at 4:30. Got the wife up at 4:15, and I finally strangled out at 4:30. So, and I've been up since. Now, Becca, I don't know if it's a pathway to citizenship. It's just giving them a legal immigration status, and that's it. Technically, those are two different things. But legal, once they do have the legal immigration status, so that is the first step towards becoming a citizen. So you're right. Okay, you're right. You're right. But anyway, I've just got a couple, 3 videos here, and we'll break these down as we go along. Oh, Biden's going to do his best to grant citizenship. He's going to do his best to get the laws passed to allow it. He can't do it by stroke of the pen and use of the phone. But he's going to do his best to get the laws changed while he's got control of the Senate. I'm surprised they haven't already started to push that through, even though their first priorities have been to federalize the voting process as much as possible and getting as many illegals into the country as possible. So let's see here. Pull this up, share screen here. And nope, that's not it. All right. We'll start with this one here. I think the reason why Obama got away with it is the Republicans didn't fight it right away. And they fought the expansion of DACA, but they didn't fight the DACA itself like they should have. They didn't take it before the courts. And I believe that if they had taken it before the courts immediately, Obama would have lost that case. So, yes, Obama pushed it through, but I believe the Republicans allowed it to happen. And that's so I'm not excusing the Republicans on this. The Republican Party should have fought it. They should have pushed it to the courts. This was an interesting. I managed to watch. I watched a few of these videos this morning on this guy. This is Hollins here. Make sure I got the volume turned up so you guys can hear it. There we go.
I want to talk about the policies that have gotten us to where we are with our effectively open border. But let me first ask you about this. You said as recently as this week that the border is closed. Is that still your position today? Border is closed?
Yes, it is.
Don't you think you bear any responsibility for the current crisis by telling the world earlier this year that the border was open? Your words were, we're not telling you not to come. We're just telling you that we're putting a system back in place in which you can come. I mean, don't you think people took your words at face value then?
Senator, I've never said that the border is open, and I've never believed.
We're not telling you not to come. How would you parse that?
All right. Good. I mean, that's exactly right. That when my son was living with us, son, I'm not going to tell you can't go to the party. I'm just going to tell you I'm not going to punish you if you do go. Yeah. You're right. It was way later, Becca, when the Republicans finally decided to do it. But they were, if I honestly believe, if they had fought it to start with right away, that they would have won.
Senator, I've never said that the border is open, and I've never believed that it should be an open border. We have laws that Congress has passed that are laws of accountability and also laws of humanitarian relief.
You did say that we're not telling you not to come, though, right? You said that. You remember that?
I'm sorry, Senator. I apologize.
You remember saying, don't you, that we're not telling you not to come? Those are your words that you said in a press conference. You said that, right?
I don't recall saying that. I don't believe.
You don't recall saying
that. This was, I don't remember saying that. You prove to me I said that. Just prove to me that I said that. Holland here has got the receipts, so to speak.
Yeah,
that's correct, Senator. I have never said.
We'd be happy to refresh your memory for you and some questions for the record. I'm sure that is interesting news, and I'm sure everyone will. The Secretary's just said he doesn't have any memory of making those comments. That's
Senator,
extraordinary.
Senator, I have never said that the border is open.
Let me ask you about this. CBP data says that the agency had 178,000 enforcement encounters at the southern border in April. It's the highest in 2 decades. Of that total, what percentage were subject to immediate expulsion?
I will get that data to you. I don't have that at my disposal this morning.
And why don't you have that at your disposal this morning? You knew you were going in there for a hearing on the immigration. Why aren't you going in there with the information that you know is going to get asked? This is I've noticed this is a very common stalling technique. This is a very common stalling technique amongst these people when they get up there. to claim they don't remember, or, well, I don't have that information here. I'll have to get back to you later. And and this, my personal opinion, the reason why they do this is because then they answer the questions in writing, which never get out. This hearing gets out amongst the people. The people get to see, us citizens, we get to see this guy make these answers, give these answers. Because it's right there on video. We have a recording of him saying it. But how many people actually later on go back and try to research what their written answers were, if it's ever published? Oh, they won't even admit there's a crisis, and they've got the press going along with them, Becca, saying that, well, no, we can't call it a crisis. We can't call it a crisis at the border. We'll find other terminology. We have problems at the border. We have an issue at the border. We've got everything but a crisis. The media has blackballed the term crisis when it comes to the southern border right now.
Is it 100%? Is it 60%? Is it 20%? Do you have any idea?
100% of families and single adults are subject to expulsion, except for those with acute vulnerabilities, and we exercise that discretion. However,
all right, acute vulnerabilities. Please define that. A controlled situation, an out of control situation, an out of control situation. But the acute vulnerabilities, that's not very well, that's a rather loose term to throw out there. That really is. Well, she's ugly, she's lame, he's missing an arm. Well, they've got children. Well, those children make it an acute vulnerability. They're aged, they're minors. All these things here could be considered an acute vulnerability. Well, they're from Guatemala, they're from Honduras, they're from Peru, they're from Venezuela, they're from Brazil, you can make excuses for anybody and say they've got an acute vulnerability. Yeah. Oh, I don't doubt it, Neil. I don't doubt it. They're trying to hide. And you're right, Becca. You're absolutely right. It is all economic related, and they can all, economic vulnerabilities. You're right. I did miss that one. Thank you. And that's probably the biggest one that a lot of them are using. But again, and I think I've said it every day this week, our own country is under economic vulnerabilities right now. We've got millions of people out of work. Oscar L. Blue. All right, I'm going to have to look him up and tag and subscribe to his YouTube. Let's get to the right page here.
Our ability to actually expel families under CDC's Title 42 authority is limited by, for example, Mexico's ability and capacity, I should say, to receive the expelled families. And that is what we are addressing as a.
All right, why is our ability to enforce our border laws dependent on the country that they came through? Why? What does Mexico, they came through Mexico. If Mexico was so concerned about their own ability to handle these people, why didn't they stop them at their southern border? Why didn't they stop them from coming across their country? These people had to cross through Mexico to get to our southern border. If Mexico was so concerned about, Mexico should have stopped them at their southern borders. It's not our job to be concerned what Mexico can or can't handle. Our job is to be concerned about what America, what the United States can handle. This is where liberalism has shot us in our own feet. This is where liberalism has shot us. We've shot ourselves in the feet and cut our own hamstrings.
The result.
Okay, I think the number is around 60% or so are subject to immediate expulsion, which means we have a very large percentage of migrants who were permitted entry into the United States and are still here. But we'll give that question again to you for the record so that you can go and look it up. Let me ask you this. Why is it that this week, actually late last night, it was reported that CBP terminated a flight program that transferred families across the southern border for purposes of expelling them under Title 42. These flights were apparently canceled due to the pressure of left-wing groups. Is that accurate?
Senator, we make our decisions as we consider to be most effective in furtherance of our mission and not because of pressure by outside groups.
Okay, a furthers of your mission. What mission is this? Which mission? Is it the mission to enforce our immigration laws and do what's best for America? Or is it the mission to allow as many illegals as possible in the country to get them to become U.S. citizens as soon as possible so that they'll all vote for the Democrats? Is it your party mission? Is it your partisan mission? Or is it your mission to help the United States, to improve the United States? I don't think it's the latter. I think it's more of, what's going to be best for our party down the road. Remember, the Democrats think 10, 15 years down the road. Unfortunately, the Republicans don't. The Democrats and their handlers have been working on this stuff for decades, pushing their agenda. And the Republicans have been slowly but surely acquiescing to them in the name of getting along. So, again, this is our own problem. This is a problem we helped create.
I'd be pleased to look into the cancellation of the lateral flights and respond to you after I've done so.
So you're telling me here that the ACLU had no role in the termination of these expulsion flights? Is that your testimony?
Senator, we are addressing the claims of the ACLU. The ACLU has claimed that our exercise of the CDC's Title 42 authority is not supported by the law, and we are working with the ACLU, actually adverse to the ACLU.
You're working with them, though?
If I may, Senator, we are adverse to the ACLU.
But you're working with them in this program? Is that why you canceled it?
If I may finish, Senator, we are adverse to the ACLU in litigation with respect to the legal authority underpinning our exercise of the CDC's Title 42 authority.
Okay, I want to stop this here just for a second. How many times did he just say that we are working with, or started to say working with, and then stopped and corrected himself there? I counted 4 times. And ding, 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 you're right. The ACLU is one of these outside groups. They just happen to fully support the Democratic Party. They're no longer what they started out to be, a nonpartisan group. They are now strictly partisan. But ding, 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 ding. One of these days, if I make any money, I may end up buying a soundboard just for that one sound. But then I hate hearing soundboards a lot of times.
Right, but they had a role in terminating this. You're working with them in the termination of these expulsion flights.
Senator, the decisions with respect to expulsion flights are ours because of the decisions that we have made based on the reasons that we think are necessary to execute on our mission.
Uh-huh. Well, I think the fact that you're working with them is interesting news. So that's also quite relevant. We'll give you this information as a question for the record.
Senator, they're suing us and we're defendants. That's not what
I'm just quoting back what you just said. You just said that we're working with them. The news reports indicate that you've canceled these flights at their behest. You and I both know that there can be such a thing as friendly litigation, Mr. Secretary. I mean, let's not pretend otherwise. I'm just repeating your own words to you. We'll give this to you as a question for the record so that you can look into it more further. I think that's interesting news. Let me ask you about why you canceled the Safe Third agreements with the governments of El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. These are agreements negotiated by the previous administration that the president canceled once he came into office. The president says that he's an avowed multilateralist, and yet one of the first things he did was to tear up these international agreements with other countries. How can you address the root causes of migration, as you keep talking about, if you're going to tear up international agreements that try to address these problems?
So I will answer your question and make one comment before I do so. I've been a lawyer now for 35 or so years. Friendly litigation is a phenomenon with which I'm completely unfamiliar.
Okay. I let that go rather long there because, well, I'm not a lawyer. I've never been a lawyer. I've never been to law school. Okay. But we'll stop screen here and I am going to share another screen. I spent a whole let's see here. Where's it at here? Here we go. I spent a whole 5 seconds using Bing and come up with, I use search terms friendly litigation. Bing.com, friendly litigation. This is one of the first search results that popped up. It popped up as friendly suit. Friendly suit, a lawsuit. Okay, A lawsuit filed in order to obtain a court order when the parties agree on the expected outcome. Such a legal suit will be dismissed if it is an attempt to get an advisory opinion, is collusionary, deceitfully planned to get a judgment to set aside a legal precedent, or where there's no real controversy. However, there are statutes that will require a court ruling to achieve a reasonable result, such as correcting a trust agreement where there is an error. So, for this man to say that he was a lawyer for 35 years and never heard of friendly litigation or friendly suit, I find that simply unbelievable. I can't give that any credence. And Becca, okay, thank you, because I was just going to ask you if you've heard about it being your job. And, this guy was a prosecutor. He worked in the United States. He worked for the federal government. Remember? Let me see if let me pull this back up again. What was his previous jobs? Assistant United States Attorney and a United States Attorney, private practice law with Melvini and Myers as a litigation partner. And the National Law Journal named him as one of the 50 most influential minority lawyers in America. So for him to say that he's never heard of that term or the term friendly suit, that's how I looked it up. Yeah, this guy's lying out his ass. Excuse my language. He's lying. He's if he could lie through his eye teeth anymore, he wouldn't have his eye teeth around anymore. So need that translated in dummy. But yeah, this is this is just amazing that he even thought that he's going to be able to get away with that. I'm surprised that Hollings did not call him on that right then and there. But let me get back to this and let me start this again. But I'm going to back this up here just a little bit. I think I got it.
Keep talking about if you're going to tear up international agreements that try to address these problems.
And now, these agreements that Trump put in place, they were, as I remember them, and I could be wrong, $9.40. Oh, you're trying to keep me up on the time? That's all right. I gave myself plenty of time. These agreements, if I remember correctly, Trump and he spent a lot of time working with these countries to get these agreements in place. And it's cost the United States taxpayer quite a bit of money with these agreements and trying to improve the conditions on the ground so that the people wouldn't be immigrating and attempting to illegally cross our borders. Yes, you have. It's yeah. This whole thing, Becca. You know, this is a farce. This is a farce in trying to keep the American people who's watching, the few of us who actually watch these videos and pay attention to what they're saying, trying to keep us in the dark.
So I will answer your question and make one comment before I do so. I've been a lawyer now for 35 or so years. Friendly litigation is a phenomenon with which I'm completely unfamiliar.
Really? You're not familiar? Wait a minute. You're not familiar with an outside group bringing litigation against the government that the government then accedes to in order to change the law? You've never heard of that phenomenon?
Senator, I'm not familiar with friendly litigation. As a federal prosecutor, I was a strong advocate for the United States government in the pursuit of criminal accountability.
You've never heard on the wait. This is interesting, and you just brought it up. You've never heard of a regulatory lawsuits in which outside groups bring suits against the federal government. The government then agrees to settle the suit or to change its rules, and it reaches a settlement that is favored, that the government actually wants to achieve. You've never heard of that before?
Senator, I've heard of resolutions of litigation. I've heard of settlements of litigation. I've heard of arbitration. I've heard of mediation. Friendly litigation, the commencement of friendly litigation is something with which I'm unfamiliar. The reason...
You lying sack. You are a liar. And you've just listed every way of working of what the results are without actually saying the terms. This is why I can't trust. I can't trust. I've lost trust. And I've seen nothing to bring me back to having any trust in these people. I don't. Yeah, his nose. There was a not Quantum Leap. Now I can't remember the name of the TV show. It was three kids and a professor jumping from timeline or from um, one reality to a next. Professor Arturo, Quinn, I can't remember the girl's name. And they had in the later seasons, they had the black guy who was a blues singer in it. Oh, why can't I remember the name of that show? But anyway, and no, it wasn't Doctor Who. This was an American show. Anyway, Leapers. Anyway, there's one episode where they went to a version of the planet, and they had and if you told everybody wore like a dog's shock collar, and if you told a lie, then that collar went off. And no, it wasn't Leapers. This is going to bother me. This is going to bother me now. Okay. But anyway, but every time you told a lie, you got a shock. And I would love to see these people when they go up before Congress. And I'd love to see every congressman and congresswoman and Congress-it to have to wear those things. Yeah, you're right. I'll be laying in bed tonight and the name of the show will pop in my skull. But I mean, I love this show. I watched it every week. It was one of the few good, entertaining sci-fi TV shows that was on. Quinn Mallory was the name of the lead character. Sliders. That's the name of the show, Sliders. Sliders. That's right. But there was one episode where they went from if you told a lie, you got zapped. And I'd love to see such a thing happen here in front of these guys. I really would.
It's extraordinary.
The reason why the safe third country agreements were terminated is because there was nothing safe about them.
I'm sorry, by which you mean what?
Senator, to have an individual fleeing persecution from Guatemala and considering Honduras a safe third country is actually empirically incorrect. Because, and we can take a look at the migration from Honduras and the number of people leaving Honduras for fear of persecution, and that is not our concept of a safe third country.
It's not your concept. So you think it's wise policy to come into office to terminate these international agreements based on your judgment about these other countries without consultation with them, apparently. And then we see this massive spike. Would you say that the children who have come to the United States and have gone through the border crossing, have had to do who knows what for the cartel, are more safe because of your actions? Do you think that you put them in less danger because of the agreements that you terminated and the opportunities to seek asylum and then wait in a third country you've denied to them? Do you think that your actions have made the situation better?
Senator, you've gone over your time. But
could I get an answer to that question?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. So, Secretary, you may answer that question, but be respectful of our three other members that are waiting.
The safe third country agreements, in my opinion, put children in harm's way.
Oh yeah, it put. Actually, I think you may find. Well, Quantum Leap was fun. It was a good show, Neil. But sliders was more. Sliders could be a lot more entertaining than Quantum Leap. Well, he actually did answer a question. He said, well, we didn't think that they would be safer, that somebody coming from Guatemala would be safer in Honduras. They're in a new country. They're in a country that speaks their language. And whatever persecution they were facing in their old country is not going to exist in the new country. So, yeah, you tell me. And I mean, and they went through Mexico. What problems would they have in Mexico that, how could their problems from Guatemala follow them to Mexico? Hawley ran out of time. I wish that question could have been brought to him based on that statement that he just made. How could problems from, well, of course, Mexico doesn't want them. Mexico can't afford them any more than we can. Mexico doesn't want them. We don't want them. We can't safely absorb them anymore. We've got too many of our own citizens who are out of work. And we can't afford to bring this many more people onto the public tip. Unfortunately, Becca, there are just enough people out there. Well, think of it this way. Biden got over 70 million votes. That's 70 million people who are moronic enough to believe their BS. Because we knew Biden was planning on doing this. He talked about doing it. We knew it was going to happen. That's why everybody was lined up on the border, ready to come across the minute Biden was sworn into office. They knew that was going to happen. Okay, so let me close that screen. And I don't need the friendly suit open up anymore. And let's see. Okay. Now we get this same lion SOB. He's facing someone else now. And I forgot to. So stop that. And did I didn't remember if I shared audio. So that's why I stopped it. Okay. Now, here's yet another guy.
Deputy Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. It's great to see you again. And my friend, you're recognized.
Unprecedented. Well, thank you, Senator Carper. This does feel like old times. Back in 2014, a little deja vu. You've got the gavel. I'm sitting next to you, and we're in the midst of a crisis at the border, even though some are denying it. I know during my chairmanship in hearings, we're always going through the problem-solving process. I'd often say the first step in solving any problem is admitting you have one. And it just does seem like we're in an utter state of denial. I've got a chart a little bit different than Senator Portman's. His is children. I've got total apprehensions of the border. And it shows clearly, it's gone.
Okay, look at this nice little chart here. I got to point this out. Trump administration declares remain in Mexico policy. That's right here. As you can see, it spiked up until Trump threatened a tariff, which all of a sudden caused Mexico to cooperate with the remain in Mexico policy. Take a look at this downward drop here. And that is like an elevator in free fall. Slow free fall. Then Title 42 implementation. Whoosh. I mean, it's down, all the way down to here. Isn't that amazing how that worked out that way? Oh, good morning, Ryan. How you doing today? Yeah, that drop was absolutely. I mean, I just love that chart. That is just it's it shows what happens when you have the proper leadership and the proper policies in place.
Appalling, quite honestly, to hear that this is a crisis inherited by this administration, that the chairman is saying that the numbers are decreasing, the situation's improving. The surge started in April of 2020. To the extent that we had any surge in 2020, it's because Democrat presidential candidates were saying, we're not going to deport anybody and we're going to give everybody free health care. That was an incentive. That was a pull factor. But it's very clear what's been happening. The crisis in 2018, 2019, we had probably a little over 4,000 apprehensions per day. We have, for the last 4 or 5 weeks, been close to 6,000 per day. In 2014, we were dealing with around 2,000 per day. This is unprecedented what's happening here. And when you talk about the Trump administration dismantling things, what they did is they ended catch and release. They ended the enormous incentive for people to come into this country and exploit our very generous asylum laws. Mr. Secretary, real quick, isn't it true that when cases are actually adjudicated on asylum, about 90% of them are denied?
I just love this. And you're right, Neil, that is just who they're catching. But when they are caught and they're immediately deported and they've blown their wad, oh yeah, well, it's not just Biden, but the entire Democratic Party, the entire administration, and the entire Democratic side of the congressional aisle is going to continue to lie and downplay it.
I don't believe that is true. And
What is the real percentage then?
Senator, I don't have the data right before me, but I'm very happy.
Okay, please get that.
And once again, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have that information in front of me. How many times have we heard this here just on these two, just in the previous video and this one? It is their go-to excuse for not answering a question.
For me, but let me ask you: Have you done a cost study on how much money the taxpayers will waste that is going to be expended by not honoring the contracts to build the final 250 miles of wall? Have you figured out how much that's going to cost the American taxpayer?
And what do you think his answer is going to be? Any guesses? Any guesses if he's going to say, I don't have that data in front of me? Or I don't know? Or I tell you what, a 1 if he says, I don't have that data. 2 if he says, I don't know. Or 3 if he actually gives an answer. Because those are the only 3 options there really is. I don't know. Okay, I'm unaware, or I don't know. That's the same saying. Yep. We're all pretty much in
Here and get no wall built.
Senator, I certainly have taken a look at the expenses that were incurred in building the wall, and in my opinion, how much waste was caused by that construction, when in fact we could have leveraged innovation of new technologies that prove far more effective in securing the border.
Okay, so again, I know you're in a state of denial, but let's go back to my chart here. What the Trump administration.
Okay. I should get an option 4. Well, we saved money, or we were wasting money building that wall. We should have done something else with it. All right, there should have been a 4th answer, a 4th one there.
Administration did is they ended the incentives. So they put in place the migrant protection protocols. Then they quite honestly threatened us some tariffs to get cooperation from Mexico. That's that line right there. And you can see it worked. add to that the imposition of Title 42, and it really worked. We pretty well stopped a robust surge of illegal immigration at the border, and that was pretty much in effect. Again, it started ramping up when Democratic presidential candidates started talking about open borders and free health care. This is President Biden's inauguration. Here's the surge. I mean, that's a surge. Let me talk about real numbers too. At the height of the surge in May of 2018, it was about a little over 7,000.
All right, I'm going to stop this here just for a second because Title 42, what that was in March of 2020, Department of Health and Human Services issued emergency regulation to implement a specific aspect of U.S. health law, Section 265 of U.S. Code Title 42, permitting the director of the CDC to prohibit the introduction into the United States individuals when the director believes there's a serious danger of communicable disease into the United States. This allows any customs officers, including officers of the U.S. Customs Border Patrol and border agents, to implement any order. So basically what they're saying is that 42 was to bring, for COVID. Stop allowing illegal immigrants coming in because of COVID. And you're right. But while his opinion doesn't matter, Becca, it's the new administration's opinion, and much as Trump used executive authority to transfer money to get that wall built, because Speaker Ryan was a never Trumper and never got a bill up before the House to spend the money on the wall, while we had a Republican control of the House and Senate. And then, of course, once the Democrats got control of the House, that was never going to happen. So Trump had to use executive authority to transfer money to do it. Well, what's done by EO normally can be undone by EO. DACA being the only exception that I'm aware of that could not be undone by EO. So, yeah, there was, but that was, Steve Banner and the Air Force guy that lost all 4 of his limbs, and they're both in trouble for supposedly embezzling money donated to build that wall. Yes, they did build quite a few sections of the wall, a couple miles of it, but they also embezzled some of the money between the two of them, supposedly. But yeah, this Title 42 implementation, that's where COVID stepped in and allowed greater enforcement and refusal to allow illegals into the country.
Unaccompanied children per month. In March of 2020, right here, that had dropped about 3,000. After Title 42, it dropped down to 741 per month. That was the low point. In March of this year, almost 19,000. Last month in April, 17,000 unaccompanied children. Those are the numbers. We can talk about,
Becca, you're not going to get me to argue with you. I agree with you. Ryan really disappointed me. When Ryan first came to prominence and during the Obama administration fighting against Obamacare, I thought we had somebody in him that was actually a true conservative. And it turned out that he was a member of the swamp. Not, not talking about you, Mr. Walters. You know that. I'm talking about Speaker Ryan. Yeah. That dip twat that really was a serious disappointment.
Percentages and tripling the numbers since April, but here's the problem. There's the surge, and it is undeniable, and yet you are denying it. And this is as close to open borders as we could possibly have. Don't you think that's going to be even more of a pull factor?
Senator, may I,
Quick.
may I have a minute to answer your question?
Again, is that going to be a pull factor or not?
Senator,
That's kind of a yes or no answer.
you've asked a few
No,
questions.
I haven't really asked the questions. Let me ask you some questions. I want to go back to, I want to talk about the February 18th interim guidance to all ICE employees in terms of carrying out enforcement removal priorities. First of all, was there any analysis regarding how the new priorities would impact crime and public safety before that guidance was issued?
Yes.
Can you provide us those documents, that analysis?
Senator, I have worked for 12 years as a federal prosecutor.
Yes or no answer. Can you provide them with the documents that you developed and answered the question? Yes or no?
I have been in the immigration.
Sure, no, would you
enforcement
provide
area
us those
specifically.
documents? Will you provide me those documents, that analysis?
Senator,
Yes or no?
yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. Was there any consultation or coordination with states regarding how the new guidelines would impact law enforcement and public safety?
Senator, one of the things that I've articulated in the promulgation of the guidelines that I will execute is that I will engage with the workforce of Immigration and Customs
No,
Enforcement.
the question is,
External.
did you engage and coordinate with state governments prior to that guidance being issued? Yes or no?
Senator, I do not know what engagement preceded me. I took office on February.
Okay, can you
of
check?
2000.
Can you check? And if there was, can you provide me that documentation? And finally, talking about states,
Senator,
again, we're running out of time. I don't want long answers. As local law enforcement is apprehending and holding illegal immigrants that they have flagged for removal, okay, so we've got that group of people. Is ICE issuing detainers on every one of those individuals that local law enforcement is holding and that are flagging for removal?
Now, you know damned well not that they're not doing that. You know damned well they're not issuing detainers. All right, states, you got the sanctuary states that aren't allowing them to. They're not allowed to issue. They're not allowed to work with ICE. Doesn't matter who's in the office. They're not allowed to work with ICE. So this question is a nonsensical question, and I'm going to have to yelp at Johnson here too. He's asking a bunch of questions, and then not giving. I mean, yeah, he's saying give me a yes or no answer, and the Morawski is or Mayorski there, whatever, is doing his best to run out the time, and I don't care what you did as a U.S. Prosecutor or attorney general. I'm asking you a question about, will you give us this? Did you do this? Did you confer? Did you develop an analysis? And will you give us that analysis? Yes or no answers. And he's doing his best to run out the time. Again, another common tactic.
I'm sure they're not, and nor should they be.
What can you tell me what percentage they would be issuing detainers on?
I don't have that percentage, and I will get that to you as well. But
Okay, good, thank you. My final question then is, because I was shocked when we were at the border. I've heard the word, we've become more efficient. Yeah, you've become more efficient at apprehending, processing, and dispersing. So I was shocked.
Catch and release. Send them out. And they're sending them to blue state, or not. They're not sending them to blue states. They're sending them to red states, just like the refugees. How do you think Michigan has turned so cotton picking blue? Well, you got all the refugees that they sent there.
We went down the border and said that the guidelines for CBP is to literally process people in 8 hours and disperse them. You get them out of CBP custody and send them all over the country. I was also shocked to find out that we aren't issuing notices to appear. What percentage of people are we dispersing around this country that don't even have a notice to appear?
Senator, the individuals who arrive at our border and are placed in the interior are subject to immigration proceedings, and they receive a notice to appear.
So 100% are receiving a notice to appear. That's your testimony?
The policy of our administration is that each individual is placed into immigration proceedings and receives a notice.
So you're not aware that
Now here comes the fun little fact. How they are, you heard him saying though that they're subject to the law and they're getting notices to appear. Here comes how they're getting around it.
CBP has been directed not to provide notice to appear as they're dispersing people in the interior. That's your testimony?
That is my testimony, because the process is that U.S. Customs and Border Protection issues a notice to appear. And if, in fact, they are operationally not able to do so.
But here comes the rest of the story. Here comes the rest of the story.
The individual receives a notice to appear at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement office. Individuals in the interior are placed in immigration proceedings in accordance with enforcement law, period.
I'll be following up with that with other information we've gotten. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I make a couple points that I didn't have the opportunity to make because I didn't have an opportunity?
Yes, no, it's important to have these questions answered, so you make it.
Now, what he's just saying there is that they're releasing them and saying, now, we're taking you from here in El Paso, and we're going to send you to Duluth. And when you get up there to Duluth, make sure you go to the local ICE station and turn yourself in and get your notice to appear before an immigration judge. Now, let's pinky swear that you're going to do that. Let's pinky swear on this. Oh, I love it, Becca. I love it. Ship them all there. I'll just ship them all to California. Send them to San Francisco. Send them to LA. Send them all to Sacramento. Let the governor deal with them. Ship them to these blue cities, these huge blue cities inside these blue states. That's where every one of them should go, if they're allowed to stay in the states. Personally, give them a bologna sandwich and a boot to the butt back across the border. That's the way what I want to see happen. That's the way it should be. All right, let me close that one. Get that one. And yeah, I know this whole stream is going to be about this illegal immigration, about this hearing. And oh, that's sweet. If we really had, and I'd hate to do this, I'd hate to do this to this wonderful state. But let's ship them all. Let's see. I need to pull up a map. I need to pull up a map here real quick, because I got a particular place that I would love to see them go. Let's see here. And do they have? Let's send them all up to where the Noatak National Preserve in Alaska. That is about almost as far north as it can go. But yeah, set them somewhere up here, very far north in Alaska. Let them get all the way up there. You know what? No, I agree with that. But what I'd also like to see is an exception to the posse comitatus rule, allowing us to station active duty military along the borders, both northern and southern. Station a couple of A-10 units at either end. And those A-10 units' sole purpose in life is to patrol the border. If you've ever seen a video of an A-10 let loose with that little gun of his, because A-10s can fly awful slow and low. Neil, I'm advocating a reasonable deterrent on the border. I don't want to see people killed, or otherwise I would say let's just landmine the hell out of the border. For 300 yards inside the border, nothing but landmines. But exactly, Becca, exactly. We really should be able to put our military on our borders to protect it. And not a civilian force like the Customs and Border Patrol, but an actual active duty military. Put some Army, put some Marines there, put some Navy, and have them patrolling our borders. The Coast Guard, Air Force units. Yep, that's right. A few A-10s, man. I've got to hear it one time, and it's like I do not ever want to hear that live again, because that's enough to well, you will need multiple changes of clothing. You will need multiple changes. This is the last. I think this is the last video I've got pulled up. No, it's not. I've got one more after this, and actually a surprising
Senator
one
Mayorkas, thanks
for
being here.
last.
The last time you were here several months ago during the process of the nomination, I asked you about the border wall. You said you were studying that, would study it. I understand the administration called for a study that was completed the 21st of March. None of us have seen the results of that study, though there was a press release that came out of your office saying that we're now protecting the border communities from the wall at this point. When I was down at the border area, you've been down there as well a couple of times. Thanks for doing that. In Arizona, this is what I saw. The day that border wall construction stopped, miles and miles of wall with the gates incomplete. This seems to be the status that we're still at. This is nonsensical. As you know, the Border Patrol now has to park a vehicle right there next to that gap, because on the other side of this fence is a city of 450,000 people from the Arizona side into Mexico. So my question to you is, what's the results of the study on the border wall completion? There's $1.4 million that was passed with a bipartisan majority last year that is in the law to be able to complete this. Where is this going?
Thank you, Senator. Two things, if I may. Number one, we have committed to finishing the levees, as well as addressing the erosion of land under roads adjacent to the wall as two public health imperatives. We have made that decision, and we are studying the very issue that you identify here about how are we going to address, what is the most effective way to address gates and the completion of gates, as well as the closing of gaps. That is something that is under review now.
So this requires a review to be able to evaluate if you should just hang the gate when the steel is sitting right there, if that should be complete.
The review is indeed underway.
What
And what, again, that is, we're going to review this to death. Meanwhile, that metal that's sitting there ready to be installed is just going to sit there and rust. Or it's going to get chopped up by the illegals and hauled back across Mexico and sold as scrap. So, and Neil, okay, I can understand you having the A-10 as your favorite aircraft, and I can really understand the P-51. All right. Of that time era, the P-51 is also my favorite. But I'm sorry, there will be nothing to replace the F-15 in my heart. And I don't care what Monkey says, the F-15 will fly circles around the F-14 at almost all altitudes. There's a couple areas where the F-14 was designed to outfly the F-15, but still the F-15 is a much better aircraft.
what would be the challenge here? I would tell you, people in my state and myself included, when I went and looked at it, I don't understand what needs a review to be able to evaluate if you just have to be able to close the gate, especially when the law already has set aside those dollars and it's already there. Let me follow up on a couple of things. You'd given testimony about the notice to appear. We understand there's been 19,000 individuals that have crossed the border this calendar year that were not given a notice to appear. Are you saying that's incorrect?
Senator, I'm not aware of that number, but let me, if I may, say that
I'm not aware. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, I don't want to admit that there's been 19,000 people in 5 months come across the border illegally, and we don't know what's going on with them, that they never received a notice to appear, even though you just got done testifying that everybody's been given a notice to appear or told to get their notice to appear.
it is our policy to issue a notice to appear to individuals who are permitted entry into the United States to make their claim. Ideally, they are issued the notice to appear at the Border Patrol station. If we are not able to do that,
The Coast Guard, Becca, to my understanding, well, hey, Shio, good morning. My understanding is the Coast Guard, they work the Gulf of Mexico, along the southern Florida tips and along the California area there, but they don't. And I want to say, but I could be very wrong here, that they do have a few small boats, PT style, that they run along the Rio Grande on occasion, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But I would definitely I'd love to see more of the effort by the Coast Guard. I'll tell you what, I'll look that up for you, Becca.
objective is to issue them a notice to appear at the Immigration and Customs Enforcement office to which they are directed. There was a time when we were unable to issue certain notices to appear and place those individuals immediately in immigration proceedings.
So
But
our understanding is from
policy-
being down in Texas, in Arizona, talking to some of the folks on the ground, we have the number of 19,000 individuals have been released in the country without a notice to appear. They're told to go to an ICE office wherever they're going in the country to self-report at the ICE office, basically turn themselves in there at ICE and ask for a notice to appear. Do you know of any that have actually done that? Do you have a number of 19,000 that have been asked to do that? How many have actually done that?
I can get that number to you because we have seen a high rate, and I should say that individuals who do not appear are a priority of ours for apprehension in the Service of Border Security.
So I understand those are family units that are coming in, or it's a parent with a child, at least one child at that point. They're told to be able to do that. Are the notice to appears that are being given out right now, do they comply with the previous Supreme Court orders that have been done to be able to make sure that they're consistent and they will stand up under the rule of law?
I believe they do.
I believe they do. I believe that what we're doing follows the law and follows the Supreme Court rulings. I believe so. Duh. Why that there should be no I believe so. There should be yes, they are. There should be a definitive answer, not a wishy-washy. Well, I think they are. I think we're doing our job the way we're supposed to be doing it.
And I will confirm that, Senator.
Please do, because we have several Supreme Court rulings recently that have given greater clarity to those NTAs. I want to make sure that we're actually not giving us something that will violate the court in that. Speaking of court, there was a court order that was done from George Tipton about the moratorium. 100-day moratorium was announced to not deport individuals, even if a court had said they have a final order of removal. The Biden administration announced that. A federal court in Texas immediately said, no, you can't just do that. In the meantime, since that's occurred, if I'm tracking these numbers correctly, ICE removals have fallen anyway by 50% from January to April of this year and by 70% from October to April of this year. So I want to
ICE removals have dropped by 70% since October. In 9 months, a 70% drop in removals. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. They're just not enforcing our laws. They're not enforcing the immigration laws. That if what Trump supposedly did was a high crime and misdemeanor and worthy of impeachment, surely not enforcing laws that are on the books, upheld by the Supreme Court, should be impeachment proceedings, should be an impeachable offense.
ask you, are you complying with the federal court order that ruled that you can't just stop? You have to continue to be able to remove people that have a final order of removal.
We are complying with the court order. Senator, the policy was promulgated at the outset that there would be a pause on removals to enable the administration to review the policies. The court did in fact enjoin that pause, and the pause was indeed lifted, and new guidelines were issued.
It's a pretty stark drop in removals, though. It's already happened this year. I also, the policy seems to be for ICE removals and for enforcement priorities that it seems to be pretty high criteria at this point for removal of individuals. And if they're not on the predetermined list to be able to be removed, they have to go.
Okay, now, Becca, this is something that ought to steam you off right here. What's getting ready to come up. It should steam everybody, but any female should be absolutely infuriated regardless of your political affiliation. The Me Tooers and such should be through the roof on this.
Get permission in advance to be able to remove someone. ICE informed my staff on April the 8th of this year that enforcement action directed at sex offenders that do not meet aggregated felony criteria will require pre-approval from the field office director or special agent in charge. So my question is about this. Can you share with us, say, the number of sex offenders that ICE has declined to deport this year because they did not meet that criteria?
Sex offenders do not have to be deported. Wrap your brain around that. I can't wrap my brain around that. A sex offender not being deported.
It is my view that individuals who commit sex offenses should be apprehended and removed.
Why is there a special request to get pre-approval before you actually address that?
Senator, allow me to explain the process, because I have yet to issue my enforcement and
Your enforcement, what do you mean you haven't issued your enforcement yet? This is the law that's in place. You don't get to supplement the law with your own personal opinion. We're talking about the law and what it is said. We're talking about obeying court rulings. We're not talking about putting your own personal stamp of approval on them. They're already there. Follow this law.
removal priorities, and I intend to do so after engaging with the ICE workforce, hearing from our personnel on the front lines, as well as other stakeholders.
What does it take to get to say how much hearings, how much conversation does it take to say, yeah, maybe we should deport illegals who commit sex crimes? How much consultation does it take to come to that decision?
Well, I would say there is a real concern about the additional hoops that people have to go through, which seems to discourage them. And we see that in the numbers, they 50% drop. Let me ask about Title 42, because when I was at the border, that was a major concern of folks on what to do on Title 42. You and I spoke about this last time that you were here, saying that you're.
Good question, Neil. He must think he's judge. Well, I'll tell you this idea that they've got that these recent appointees have is that they are the final say seems to be rampant among these guys. I was watching another one that I was going to bring up this morning, dealing with Title IX, and it's this immigration just got so big so fast that I knew I wouldn't have a chance to do it. But a witness, a nominee, or not a nominee, but somebody who's been confirmed into office, said that she had the right to provide as much guidance to all the schools dealing with Title IX as she wanted to, because she had been appointed to that position and didn't have to follow the laws when it comes to implementing new rules that colleges and students had to follow. And I don't remember exactly which congressman it was that was questioning her, but he was just absolutely flabbergasted that she felt that way.
You're going to study it and try to examine what to do on this. There's a significant number of people. In fact, of the 178,000 people that were encountered at the border last month, 111,000, almost 112,000 of them were turned around due to Title 42. The question is, how are you examining what's your criteria for dropping Title 42 and what's your plan? Because if you drop Title 42 at this point, there's 112,000 more people that are actually engaging across the border.
Senator, Title 42 is the CDC's public health authority.
Correct.
It is not a tool of immigration. It is a tool of public health. And therefore, the use of Title 42 will be governed by the CDC.
Okay, now I've got Title 42 pulled up, remember? And what did I read? How did I read this? Okay. Aspect of U.S. Health Law, Section 265 U.S. Code, Title 42 permits the Director of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to prohibit the introduction into the United States of individuals when the director believes there's a serious danger of introduction of a communicable disease into the United States. The rule allows any customs officers, including officers of the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, such as Border Patrol agents, to implement any such order as issued by the CDC. Okay? That's pretty clear. That's awful damn clear to me. So for him to suggest anything else, that the CDC does not have the authority to do this, is wrong.
Sees analysis of the public health imperative.
But is that the public health imperative in Mexico or in the United States?
It is the public health imperative with respect to the protection of the American people.
So that would be where they're coming from, if they're coming across the border from Mexico, the health status there.
I can't speak to the precise analysis that the CDC undertakes, and I'd be very
I'll follow
pleased to follow up with.
Please do. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the additional time on that. This is a very important issue that we started a couple of months ago that we still have to get clear.
This, for him at best, it's awful disingenuous what he just said. At best, it's awful disingenuous there. Title 42 gives them complete authorization to say, no, we can't allow people from this country to come across because of the chances of them infecting our people with diseases. Now, remember, we just spent the past year in quarantine, damn near, because of COVID. And they're going to want to allow illegals to come across the border without being tested, released without testing, or tested and released regardless of what the results are, and send them back just send them out into the country willy-nilly. This is absolutely scary. Okay. All right. I've got to cut this short. I've got somebody at my doorbell. I'm sorry. I know who it is. He's here a half hour early. So I'm going to have to cut it short. I apologize. It's been an hour and a half. I'd hope to spend a little bit longer on this because I had one more. But if you get a chance, look up Mitt Romney's session on this. Okay. Y'all have a good one.